welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. So we are still really at the tail end of our heat wave here. So I have an inside project that I wanted to do with you guys today. I promised you guys I would take you along. Today we are making a lavender salve. So I have made salves out of a couple different things that we've grown here on our farm. This lavender salve, the hope is that it will kind of be an all-inclusive boo-boo salve. So it'll be good for burns, it'll be good for cuts, bruises, things like that. I'm only going to be using 2 ingredients, and that's the infused oil and some beeswax from our farm. So here's our infused oil. I can't remember exactly when I set this up, but it was a couple months ago at least. The lavender flowers that are in here we grew on our farm, and this is just regular old olive oil. You know, I can smell lavender, but it's not particularly potent. So if I wanted to have more lavender scent, I could put some essential oil in my salve, but to be honest, I don't think it's really gonna add much to my salve that has more benefits than what's already in here, and I don't care too much about the smell, so I'm not going to add any essential oils. I do need to get these flowers out of here though, so I have this really cool sieve, and I do need to weigh the oil because the amount of beeswax that we add into the salve is really dependent on the amount of oil that we have, and I'm gonna be weighing it in grams. Pressing down gently on the flowers here just helps extract as much of the oil as possible. As I mentioned, these flowers have been sitting in the oil for at least a couple months. With an oil infusion, you really only need to let the herbs sit in the oil for around 6 weeks. And if you let it sit longer, it's not necessarily gonna get more potent, but it doesn't exactly hurt anything either. I think I changed my mind. I'm gonna switch to ounces. Okay. It's just easier for my poor American brain. Oh look, I wrote the date on the jar. So I set this infusion up on 5/10, so May 10th. Today is August 24th, so it's been plenty of time. All right, so we have a total of 22 ounces of oil. I thought that these little bits might have been pieces of flowers, but it's actually not. It looks like it might be like the essential oil extracted from the flowers because it's like little oil bubbles in there, little purple bubbles. So we have 22 ounces of oil here, and the amount of beeswax that we put in really is kind of determined on what we're looking for out of the salve. The higher the ratio, or the more beeswax you have in the oil, the more firm the salve is going to be. And when you have the lesser amount of oil, the softer the salve is going to be. And I actually really like my salves to be kind of creamy, so I'm going to go for the smaller amount. We're going to do a 1 to 5. I just put in my calculator 22 divided by 5, and I get 4.4. So that's how many ounces of beeswax I am going to cut off of this chunk, because this is probably, let's see how heavy this is. Oh, it's actually lighter than I thought. I need to go grab some more beeswax. Hang on. Okay, so there we go. 4.4 ounces. Perfect. So in order to get the oil and the beeswax to become one unit, I need to melt them together, but I don't want to do it just in a regular pot. What's going to be the best thing to do is do this in like a double boiler. So I'm just going to take this jar, just like this. There is water inside this pot here, and this is how I'm creating a double boiler. This burner only has 2 speeds, hot and off, and so I'm actually going to scoot this back here because this one has a little bit more variable control, and I'm going to put this on medium high back here, and the beeswax is going to melt easier into the oil if that's broken up into smaller pieces. So this is easy. This is actually just what I took off of the top of the rendering pot the last time that I rendered beeswax, but this chunk I'm gonna have to break apart. I mean, you don't have to, it's just gonna take longer to break that beeswax down. So, fun fact about beeswax. See this gorgeous yellow color? I absolutely love it. Beeswax actually doesn't start out yellow. So when the bees make it, they have glands on their underside that create the wax. And when they first build their wax comb, it's pure white. It's beautiful. The wax gets its color like this from the pollen that the bees bring in. They walk all along the wax with that pollen on their legs, and it, I guess, imparts itself into the wax and turns it yellow. It's pretty cool. Oh, it smells delicious. It smells like honey. I'm gonna take the time to note here too that beeswax is very hard to get off of anything. So this knife, it's going to be difficult to clean it off. This jar, this chopstick that I'm stirring with, it's all really hard to clean. My favorite way to clean beeswax off of things that can handle it is actually to fill my kettle with boiling water and pour the boiling water over said, knife or utensil straight out into the grass, and that's the best way. It just melts it off. Obviously, you want to be using utensils that can handle that kind of heat in order to clean it off with boiling water. Turning my heat down a little bit. I don't necessarily want it to come to like a rolling boil, but I do want the water to be hot, and that's going to create a good amount of heat in the oil that's going to melt the beeswax. But I also don't want to ruin all of the good things about our salve by heating it up too much. This is the shirt that I wanted to wear today. This is merch from the Homestead, if you're not familiar with her. Her name is Kaylee here on YouTube, and she has a homestead with lots and lots of honeybees, and she does a lot of really great honeybee content. I love her. Anyways, it's the shirt that I specifically looked for today, partly because I'm making the salve. Also, it's one of my favorites anyway, and I was walking outside today and noticed that there's a pretty large swarm of bees on one of my dairy goat pens outside, and the last time I checked they were still there. I have been trying to catch 2 separate swarms for several days, almost a week, and they keep flying out of the nuke box, or the little box that I have tried to put them in. They don't want it, and so I'm guessing it's the same bees, except for now instead of 2 swarms they've collected into one big one. So maybe when our salve is all jarred up and cooling down, we'll go outside and see if they're still there. If you don't have access to bars of beeswax like this, I know you can buy it in like a pelleted form, and that is really easy to deal with. It's already broken down for you. I could have taken my cheese grater and grated this up, and it would have been even finer and probably melted even faster, but here we are. You see how this water, it's essentially just simmering. This is what I'm looking for. So I actually have a simmer setting on my stove. I'm just gonna move that to simmer so we can maintain the temperature. Okay, so here we have our melted mixture here. Any little bits that you see in there, those are actually bubbles from me stirring. I'm gonna move kind of quickly and fill up these jars. Beeswax will harden up pretty quickly, and I want to be able to get the jars filled before it really starts to thicken up in my jar over here. Whoop. I think you can already start to see the color change happening as the beeswax starts to solidify again. So now we wait. It does smell lovely. After heating it up, I can smell the lavender. It's kind of hard to smell before heating it up. There. Let's go take a look at these bees, shall we? They're still there, I can see them from here. We have an excessive heat warning today, up to 110 degrees. So, kind of spicy out. These bees are in the sun. They get hot too. Hey baby. What you got here? Hmm? I was actually doing chores this morning, and I had my earbuds in because I usually do when I am out doing chores, and I didn't see this swarm at all. I had come in and out of this door a couple times. And then finally, when I was done dealing with the goats that are in here, I saw this like mass out of the corner of my eye, and it startled me. Not because the bees scare me, but because I really didn't expect to see thousands of bees right there. But there they are. Bees, while they're swarming, there's nothing to defend, and so they are quite gentle. They don't really want to sting you, because when they sting you, they die. And with nothing to defend, they're not going to be aggressive. They don't have a home or any kind of resources or brood, which is baby bees. They don't have any of that to defend. They still probably wouldn't be happy if I really got in there and started, you know, messing around with them. So you have to be smart, but a swarm of bees is really nothing to be scared of. This is the gentlest that they ever are. So am I going to try to catch these bees? No, I have been trying to catch them for a week, and they don't want to stay in any of the boxes that I have offered them. There are some things that I could do to kind of make sure that they stay. I could take a frame of brood or a frame of baby bees out of one of my current colonies and put that in the box with them, and that really would help them to stay. But I'm not really trying to grow my apiary right now. I'm actually trying to downsize a little bit, and I do have quite a few empty boxes that are just ready to accept a new swarm of bees. So I know that I've provided plenty of options for them. They just kind of have to decide what they want. The bees that you see kind of flying off of this mass of bees here are the bees that are looking for a new home. So they're out looking, they come back and kind of show the other bees the coordinates of that potential new home with their waggle dance, and then other bees will go and check that out, and they will actually put down a pheromone inside the potential new homes, and if enough of the colony approves of a new location, they will have filled it with this lovely pheromone, and they'll come back and communicate that with the rest of the bees with their dance, and then they'll all take flight and fly away to their new home. Now obviously they haven't decided quite yet, but these guys have been sitting here since this morning. There's kind of a lot of activity of the scout bees that are coming back, going to and from this mass. So I expect them to probably not be sitting here by tomorrow morning. The second that I went to walk away, they took flight. Let's see if we can see where they're going. Well, wherever they went there in a hurry, so they knew exactly where they were going. I came over here, this is my neighbor's property, to make sure that they didn't try to get into anything that was gonna bother them over here, because that's the one thing about not catching and keeping swarms on your own property when you're a beekeeper, is that they can be a nuisance to your neighbors. But I happen to know that that exact direction that they were flying, there's an Amish farm down there. They probably also keep bees, and so hey, their swarm trap is probably just better than mine, so they can have them, it's okay. Alrighty, so it's been a little bit, and our salve is all solidified now. Sometimes they do sink down in the middle and get like a little dip or a crack, but that's totally normal. Another thing that's totally normal when you use fresh flowers and things like that in your infusion is these little flecks. So I saw some bubbles while I was pouring it in, but some of those little particles are definitely little pieces of flower, undoubtedly. It does smell very good. I'm very pleasantly surprised at the light lavender scent that we're getting. And you can see here, this is the consistency that we have. It's perfect. Got a decent scratch here from moving some rabbits around. Just gonna spread that on. It smells great. So when I set up that lavender infusion, I just filled that quart jar as much as I could with the lavender flowers that we grew, and then I topped it off with oil. And as I said, you really only have to let it sit for about 6 weeks. We let it sit for a lot longer than that. And then our ratio of beeswax to the oil was a 1:5 ratio, and it came out so creamy and so perfect. As you saw, that made 8 of these little 1/4 pint jars, and we only need to keep 3 here for our family to get us through until next year. I am gonna list the other 5 on our website, so that's not very many, but if you'd like to pick some up, you saw it made, and so I think that's pretty cool. I'm gonna put the link to our website in the pinned comment down below. I'm also gonna run a sale on our merch hats with our Sage and Stone logo. This is our logo right here. Those cost us about $15 each to produce, so $25 is probably about as good as I can do on those. So go ahead and snatch one of those up if you've been waiting. And don't forget, if you are a member to our channel, you do get 10% off of even the sale prices on our website. So don't forget to plug in your coupon code when you're checking out. If you want to hear more about our memberships, you can click the join button down below and see the different tiers and what all that involves. And yeah, that's all I've got for you today. Everybody have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you guys in the garden on Monday.